Hi, how's it going? Welcome back to the Manufacturing Come Up. I'm your host, Malachi Greb. Today, we have a special guest, Keegan Dillon. Welcome to the show, Keegan.
Hey, Malachi, great to be here. Thanks for being on your show. Let me be on your show. I think last time you were on mine when I kicked off my podcast. So
Yeah,
good to be on yours.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Definitely love to have another business owner on here as well. Uh, I'm just kind of partial to it. I like to have business owners to talk business owner things and how people, take that path and take the leap to get to where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something I like to talk to as well. And, also when we're talking to these people, I like to kind of venture into different areas, right? So we're not always talking to the same type of people, but, get different backgrounds within the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So where did it all start? Where did your industrial manufacturing, what got you
Sure.
in space?
Yeah, so I started off, got my degree from Ferris State University in the Weld Engineering Technology program. Then from there, I jumped into consulting as a weld engineer for Roman Engineering Services. Did that for a little over a year and a half or so. Then I went to R&E Automated as one of their weld engineers. Did that for a few years. Traveled the world. I think between the 6-7 years I did that, I did 50 some different plants, 4 different countries. Learned how to do MIG, TIG, spot welding, projections, everything basically in the welding industry except laser. I never really got into laser too much. And then from there, I think I did spent some time in Thailand, Mexico a handful of times, Canada a handful of times, and like I said, just traveling all over the States. And then I actually ended up going to Stanley Engineered Fastening as an application engineer for their stud welding systems. Did that for a few years. Then I actually got an opportunity to go to Germany with them, working in their innovation team. Did that for 2 years, lived in Germany. And that's what really opened my mind to a lot of things. We were looking at, all sorts of new technologies and, different ways of manufacturing vehicles. So it really just like opened Pandora's box for me, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. And then from there, my mind's just been business oriented ever since. Ended up starting my company, Joiner Services, at the end of 2020, basically beginning of 21. Got my first project basically 6 months in, which was start. That's the hardest part, right? The first one, always the toughest to get started in. And then last year was our first full year, I like to say. We 10x'd our original first year and looking to 10x again this year, which is the plan. And then I also started a new business here in January called Finding Automation. Basically, that company is dedicated towards just finding automation, whether it's industrial, residential products, learning, and training opportunities, and then also the latest automation news. And then, as you know, I also run my own podcast. I got a lot here. It's called Engineers in Automation, and basically, I just do 20 to 30-minute interviews on individuals in the industry like yourself. Like I said earlier, I think you were my second guest that I had on, and just kind of learn about their background and how they got started. So similar to this show.
Yeah.
So that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think whenever I originally started this podcast, I kind of was really wanting to tailor more towards like kind of your same genre of guests, and it just kind of worked out that it like just kept getting people who are like the CEOs of other automation companies or other manufacturing facilities, and it's like definitely like it's nice to take on like people with like those type of accolades that have like made major career successes, and but the main objective is to like influence people throughout their career to further themselves, navigate whenever they have no clue, especially like people who are not even in the industry yet, like they have no idea where to go, how to get there, like they're completely lost.
And that's, I think you touched on it, and that's exactly what I try to do, right? It's helping people that may not be in the industry or people that already are in the industry, helping them learn and see where these individuals got to where they are now, and their background and their story behind that. I think that's super important to tell, to also get people involved You know, just to know that, hey, I could, you know, I maybe didn't go to school, or, you know, I'm afraid to start my own business, and look at these other individuals that did that and where they are now with some, you know, hard work and dedication to their craft.
Absolutely. When did your mind start to adapt to business? And also another question before that, do you listen to Grant Cardone?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Okay. When you said the 10X, that's probably where it came from.
Yeah. I read his book on that. It really, to be honest, I read it last year, the year before. I can't remember. I do a lot of the audiobooks when I'm doing yard work. And one of the things that really hit me with him in that book in particular was, you know, even if you reach for that 10X, and you don't make it, it's probably better than what you would have, right? If you would have said, oh, I just want to double. Okay, well then you set your goal so small. But if you try to 10X it and maybe you only, you know, get 5 times or 6 times,
Yeah.
that's still better than probably what you may have been if you would have said, oh, you know, I want to have a small goal, right? So reach for the stars. That's what I suggest to everybody on that.
Yeah, and like it goes into the thing, like it takes more action than what you think. So like if you said I'm gonna 2X and you shoot for 2X, you're probably not gonna actually hit 2X. You're probably gonna hit 1.5X, you know.
Yeah.
And
Another great point. Yeah.
yeah, a big, you know, for a long period of time, I really didn't like Grant Cardone. So I listened to Gary Vaynerchuk's and all these different individuals, and I think listening to those type of people, or just any of these podcasts, things like this, are like really one of the major things that adapted my mind to be business oriented. So it's like extremely important to listen to those things. But like for him, his number one thing for me is the book Sell or Be Sold. And it's just because I'm not like a very good salesperson. And so like I have to think in the mentality of like, if I'm not selling this person on our services or whatever it is we have to offer, then essentially they're selling me, you know. And if I feel like I have a good product, and this product is going to help support them, you know, through automation, you know, it's our business, but they're essentially missing out. And you have to come at it with that type of mindset of like, people are missing out if you don't sell them the thing that you have to offer them.
Yeah,
And
they don't know, right? So that's
Yeah.
one of my hardest parts right now with joiners. I've some very good self-employed contractors on the platform, you know, some top level people, 10 years experience in their craft, you know, really, really good. But now it's how do you reach out to new clients and say, hey, look, we may be a little more expensive than what you're traditionally used to, but these people are top tier talent. So for me, that's definitely the hard part within the business right now, because I'm an engineer at heart. So this, like you said, the sales is difficult. That's definitely a challenge that I've struggled with.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm still challenged with it. I'm actually spending like all my time on the sales aspect of things just to like sharpen myself. And the biggest one that I've really been studying on is like objections. I notice like that's my biggest thing when it comes to sales, and like where I really struggle. It's whenever the conversation goes in another way, and like you know, if it's just a good friendly conversation and we're just going with it, but if they start like kind of almost get into a little bit of like an interrogation mode.
Yeah.
What about this? What about that? What about this? And it's kind of
the pushback.
Yeah, the pushback, right? Yeah, if you can't deal with that objection, then like you can pretty much lose the deal, or lose confidence in the customer, which is really what it really will.
And I think that you just touched on too is a big one, especially working with newer clients. It's just, you know, you want to make sure you do have that confidence, because I feel like if they do see you crack, or like, does he really have these great people or not? You know, then that's where they see an opening and say, oh no, you know, we'll continue using who we're using now. And in some cases, right, that may be better for them. You know, maybe not for everybody, but try to find the best people, and, you know, just let our reputation speak for itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to the original question, what is it? What is it that where you started to really kind of shift into being business minded?
You know, like I said, when I was in Germany there, it just seeing all the new technologies and all these new startup companies that we worked with, lots of different people, different perspectives. Our team was truly international. We had individuals from India, the States, all over Europe, all working in one building. and just the different ideas that we saw there. It, like I said, it kind of opened Pandora's box for me, and I can't put it back in. So everything, I'm constantly thinking of new ideas. My wife yells at me all the time because I'll be up in the middle of the night thinking about toothbrushes. How can we make toothbrushes better? Just crazy stuff like that, stuff that's not even in my field. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe we can try this, or, this isn't invented yet. Can somebody make that? So, when I was over there, that really kind of, opened my mind to a lot of things. And then, just being so automation related and focused, that's what really kind of pushed me, okay, what other things can I do in this industry? And that's when I came up with the idea for Joiner Services, kind of a online platform for contractors to build their own profiles, similar to like a LinkedIn. And then our clients basically are able to post projects on the platform. And then they can also look at the contractors that are there and say, oh, is this person available? So that really kind of, I was like, oh, well, there's nothing really like that out there. Currently right now, there's about one other company that's doing somewhat similar to what I am. But other than that, there's really no one. So, it's unique.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like the technology front of things, like I think if you could do like this, the app user interface, like really well, like just like develop an app and just have like just like all the, I don't know how to put it, like even like some of the companies that are out there that are doing something similar, it's like it's kind of just now like starting to become app friendly. And like I think even 2 years ago there wasn't even an app for it at all, so it's like it was only computer only. And it's like a huge sector that, especially on like the technical, I think the biggest part is like the services are there, right? It's the user interface portion of it that's like really, really missing.
Well, and I think that's too what some of these, companies like Uber, you have, Rabbit does like some of the lawn care stuff. So there's a bunch of different companies that do sort of what we do at Joiner, but in different sectors. And I think that's what took them the longest. So, I did some research into those companies and how long it took them to develop apps and to develop their system that they use now. Fiverr, Upwork, all those are somewhat similar to what I'm doing, just not in this related field. But it took them a long time to figure things out, and then once they do hit, and then the ball just starts rolling. So that's the one challenge. We haven't started that with Joiner yet. Eventually, that's definitely the goal, is to be able to make it super app friendly, do everything through the app, whether it's payroll, timesheets, expense reports, stuff like that.
That's awesome. I think that it's extremely important to like just keep that innovation going and keep striving to do that. It's like, say for instance, like for Elite, like the portion of our project, we're basically doing automation type of work, right? But the end goal is to do more innovative things, right? But you gotta have the capital there to back it up and be able to afford like developers and R&D engineers and products and materials that that you can't really afford it at first. You got to create that.
Well, and that's the thing, you got to make sure too you have the right experts in the field that know some history behind it. So then when they do see something new and unique, oh yeah, I can use this experience that I had over here, and that might not be exactly that, but I can adjust to it and make it, and make something work and make it viable.
Absolutely. So whenever you was working like 9 to 5, did you anticipate at some point in time I'm going to start a company, or did
so during COVID, everyone in the organization got laid off for Fridays basically, and so I took that opportunity to grow a business. I'm a workaholic. I working 80 some hours a week right now, probably 80, 90 at the min. So I'm working on my companies, and it's just one of those opportunities that I don't know what to do with myself if I'm on a 32-hour work week. I got to do something, right? So I know a lot of people, my friends, work at Ford, GM, Chrysler, et cetera, that started side companies during that time as well. A lot of people did, around the country. I think during 2020, the most LLCs were ever filed during that year, right? So people just venturing out, whether they were cooking or doing something else. So that's what I did. Just took advantage of the quote unquote downtime and that's when I started.
Awesome. Yeah, I think taking the leap for just to start a company is it's a pretty big leap, and it could be like very like mentally challenging for some people. Like I think that I legalized the company about like 6 months before I jumped in.
Yeah.
I didn't go 100% full time with it until like I think January 30th of 2020 was like
Yeah.
the day I went full time with it. I did some back end stuff, building out website and
Yeah.
getting email domains and things like that.
Getting it set
Uh,
up and ready. Yeah.
yeah, getting it set up and ready and legalized and all that good stuff. And so like I knew probably like a good 6 months before. Actually, I knew 2 years before that,
Yeah.
and I was
Well,
like,
and a lot of people do in your situation, right? A lot of people, hey, I'm thinking about this, and they just sit there and think. But finally, it's just, hey, we got to jump the gun and do it.
yeah,
And that's actually one thing I'll mention is, especially with joiners, since I use a lot of self-employed individuals, I talk to people all the time, like, oh, I've thought about going out alone independently, but I just don't know where to find work, or I don't know how to get insurance for the company, or I don't what to do about retirement or benefits and all that stuff. And what we've done, we've actually partnered with a handful of companies to make it easier. So when people do come to us with that, oh, I've thought about doing this the last couple of years, it's like, oh, have you? Well, then here, reach out to some of our partners. They can also help you, so they don't have that uh, added stress of trying to find some, oh, who do I go to talk to about accounting, or, hey, legal services, who am I supposed to talk to? We reach out to those individuals and companies and partner with them to say, hey, if you need anything, reach out to this person, right? So there's a phone number to call, there's an email. And I found that that's really, really helpful for people as well.
oh, absolutely.
And then whether they want to use them or not, that's up to them. But at least, hey,
Absolutely.
we have those services. And,
Yep.
for me as well, that was always the big thing, jumping out on your own, like, okay, well, who do I talk to? What do I do? I mean, it took me, like you said, almost 6 months to find all these people. So, and partners, I'll say.
Yeah.
So it is something that you definitely have to talk and think
Yeah.
about when going out on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like an extremely good and valuable assistance to add to them, because, like you said, it's going to cater to them not feeling like they're taking such a big leap. Like
Yeah.
a lot of those things that feel like the major barriers kind of can get dissolved.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would have told me to start using QuickBooks sooner.
Yeah. So my cousin, he's my financial accountant, and that's what he uses. So we got hooked up right instantly, and oh man, so great.
Yeah.
I would say the bill pay, I wish we would have started using first, because I was using ACH payments through my bank, and you get a fee on that every time you use it every month. So now you can just go straight through QuickBooks without the fee or anything. So that's what we've been doing all year this year.
Yeah. Yeah. The big thing for me is like, with us doing system integration work and most of it being like capital project,
Yeah.
things are, categorized by a project, and there's not a lot of transactions, right? Like most time when we receive purchase orders, we really only receive, a handful of them in a year, at least as of right now. And when we send out purchase orders, it's generally a handful of them in a year. We try to put as many components on one purchase order as we potentially can. And, so it's quite minimal on the bookkeeping side of things.
Yeah.
But still, whenever you go from doing that in like a Google sheet or something, and then you need to file taxes, it's like, oh, huh. This would have been much easier, just kind of hit a button that says, go ahead and file.
Well, and that too, right there. Yeah, I forgot even about that. Right. So all of our contractors, come tax time in January, all the documents go out to them through QuickBooks. So yeah, definitely a shout out to QuickBooks here.
Yeah. Are we paid by QuickBooks for this video?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe sponsored.
Yeah, right.
Maybe sponsored.
Yeah, I think things like that are super important. For me, it's like it seemed like you definitely kind of like just jumped. You're like, dude, I'm doing this. For me, it was like much slower. I took 1 year of I'm gonna do everything I can to try to grow this company I'm in, and we'll see where things go. If I feel like things are moving in the right direction, then I'll stay. And if they don't, then I'll leave. And through that 1 year, there was definitely progression. Things definitely had moved forward. We were doing like twice the size in projects, but there was still like a thing that just wasn't right. Like no matter what, it wouldn't, at least in my mind, wasn't ever going to be able to grow to the spot that I needed it to grow to support my ambition, right? And so, that was about 1 year before I left, and then for that next year, I had in my mind like basically I'm going to start a company. I've already done what I could to try to get this company where I think it should, and I continued to do that while I was there.
Yeah.
But then I just had my mind like kind of more set and wrapped around like looking at things like business minded, like, oh, like employees are mad because of this. Like if we did this with our payroll or vacations or whatever it may be, right? Like, but just looking at how the business is operating as a whole, and just educating myself with other individuals like Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone's, all those guys. Patrick Bet-David is actually Valuetainment is probably the number one for like actual business advice that was like tangible, like hard data type of advice,
Well, if you got any books of his, let me know.
Patrick Bet-David.
Yeah.
He's got oh gosh,
I'll throw it on my Audible list and listen to it next time. Well, it's springtime here now, so we'll finally listen to it and do yard work.
I'll shoot you something over. Yeah, I think those things are critical. Like especially like, I mean, I don't know like how much of that was like, made my mind super expansive, but like definitely like, I don't know, like even now it's like, I don't look at myself as necessarily just being a business owner, but like to want to operate like one of the largest companies in the world, like that's a whole nother thing, right? There's a lot of people that start a company and they want to run a company or be a business owner or whatever, but then a lot of people kind of just stop there. They don't really have the ambition to go past that, or, maybe they just want to make $1 million a year, or make $250,000 a year take home or something like that.
Whatever that number is to you that you're satisfied with, right? And that's different for everybody. Some people have, hey, I want to make $100,000, and I run into it on the contracting side, right? It's some guys, hey, I want to make $100,000 and then I'm good for the year. Other guys, shoot, you couldn't give them enough work, you couldn't give them enough hours. They want more. So it just depends on what you want, especially as if you're self-employed and or a business owner. You got to figure out to you what is that goal, right? I have a goal in my head, but once I hopefully reach it, right, I know that's going to change. Right. Just like you, right? When you start, it's like, hey, I need my first sale. I want to make my first $100,000. Okay. And now I want to make my first $1 million in revenue. Right. And so the goals just keep changing. And then what I always like to do to kind of ground myself a little bit, I do a monthly revenue tracking. And I look back every now and then and say, wow, man, I just wanted to get my first sale. Look at me now. Look at how much I'm doing a month now. So that kind of puts things in perspective, because I used to remember, man, if I could just make $10,000 a month in revenue, okay, that's great. And then now, I'm looking at, crazy higher numbers and saying, man, if I could just do that, but it's also good to just kind of put it back in perspective, be grateful for where you are now, but also remember the hard work that you put in to get yourself there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think for a business owner, you can easily get tied up in like looking at other people's success and being like, I'm not where I want to be at. Or you look at some company or some other person, they've been in business 10 years and you're comparing yourself to something like that. It's like people, they have like 7 more years on you. Like
or a company that's, been around for a long time, and you're like, well, hey, I know I've got a better product or service, but how do you get it out there for other people to find? And I think, like we talked about earlier, that's the challenging part, where you may have the better product, you may have the better services, you may have the better team, and you may be coming at a lower price point. But it's just, how do you get yourself out there in front of the client and express that? And like I said, it kind of goes back into the sales funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. How has your overall sales process been?
So really good. We get probably half of the people that reach out to me are through LinkedIn. The other half are through Google. I've got pretty good SEO for the company, being only 2 years old now. So our website's getting a decent amount of traffic through Google, which helps.
This is all organic?
Say that again?
All organic?
Yeah. Awesome. Yep. No ads, no nothing. Sweet. So if you search, contract weld engineer, we'll come up behind, Indeed and LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter.
Nice.
So we're up there. Same thing with contract robot programmer. we're right up there. So that's how we get a lot of new clients that reach out that aren't, if I'm focused here in the Metro Detroit area, people that are outside of that realm, that's how I'm getting a lot of those is through Google.
Yeah. I think it's like something that's like very important for like businesses. I mean, it depends on your sector that you're in, but like,
Yeah.
I feel like we're definitely in a sector where like that gap hasn't really been bridged. Like, I feel like the marketing and for like industrial related things, like there's just not,
not a lot of information. And a lot of what I've noticed, I work with a really good marketing team that I use. So this guy knows what he's doing. And I've noticed that too, right? A lot of industrial websites, you can tell were built by engineers, right? They're just kind of plain and blocky, and there's not a lot of information on it. So it's definitely a need in our industry for people to catch up with, some of that marketing on their websites.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I see too is like for well-established companies, it goes like the other way, and there's like 100 web pages, and you could read through all 100 web pages, and you still don't know what the company does. Yeah, it's like, okay, cool. Like, but what do you do?
Yeah, keep scrolling down, can't find anything.
Good deal. So, what do you kind of see for Joiner going into the future and your other new company?
Yeah, so I think that we're really going to be focused. My goal is to get to about 20 individuals working full time, and just being able to find and place them consistently and finding consistent work for them. That's sort of my goal here for the near term. Once I get to that point, I'll be able to start, branching out, hiring, people to help, on a daily basis, whether that's, checking in with the clients, checking in with the contractors, paperwork, internal, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of, my plan to see, where we grow this year. Like I said earlier, I'm on track to do really well individually, and build that. And my goal is really kind of keep it on myself as much as I can until I can't, handle it anymore. Right now I'm in a good spot. So, eventually we'll get to hopefully a better spot where I'll have to hire people on. But, for me, just taking slow steps, and every day I have my whiteboard, I have my goals for the day. I lay out 3 or 4 things that, hey, these are things I got to do. And then I'll lay out, a couple minor tasks that, hey, make sure I call this person at the end of the day, or, get a hold of this client, check in with them, see how they're doing. So it's just those little steps that, again, you look back on it several months from now, you're going to say, wow, all these little tiny things that I did, these steps, now look at where I'm at. I'm halfway up the mountain, or I'm at the top of the mountain. So that's to me where I just try to stay focused.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of cool, kind of ironic. We also just started another company in January, Elite Properties, completely unrelated, but and it's also kind of more just like a silent business. Probably people won't hardly hear much about it at all, and I'm kind of just like utilizing myself as a resource. Jenna's involved in it, but really like not looking to like increase any overheads or anything like that. Just like grind it out, like just let it bring in cash and not necessarily build it out to be a huge empire or anything, but just be a little something there.
Yep. And again, but you're going to lean on so many of these past experiences that you've had and just crush it because, you've got all these lessons learned. Whereas, somebody who maybe, again, was afraid, oh yeah, well, I was thinking about starting my own business or did this for the last 2 years. Now, if they wanted to jump into real estate like you did, they're going to say, oh no, I'm going to have so many new struggles. But whereas somebody with like you, now you have all this experience. So, oh, I know what to do now. Oh, I know who to call. I know what we need. And, just having that experience alone is going to make it so much better for you in the future.
Yeah, it's really crazy because I think like definitely starting a business is one of those things where it's like it's the not knowing part that's scary. Because like after you've been through the experience, I remember when I started Elite, I was like, I'm done. After it's like legalized, I was like, that's it. Like this is like kind of strange. Like I feel like there should have been more of a process to start a company, and then so like whenever it come to like starting this other one, like it was kind of like just a flip of a light switch. It's like, okay, we're gonna do it. We pay, a little bit of money, and then now it's a legalized thing, and there's the whole like operation investment side of the thing. But yeah, all the business parts kind of just come easy. I know that like how it can be operated and you know,
And you know how to set up QuickBooks.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was the second thing that happened. Started the bank account, started QuickBooks.
But again, it's the thing, you start, right? And that's what most people are so afraid of. And
Mhm,
you know, another reason why I started Joiner was I've always wanted to own my own company, right? I've been thinking about when
mhm,
I was contracting 10 years ago. I said, man, I'd really love to own my own company, start my own. I had a business model, everything. And you know what I did? Nothing.
mhm.
You know, looking back on it 10 years ago, where this company would be now, who knows, right?
Yeah,
You know, but again, it's just that the fear and everything. And then that when COVID hit, it like kind of just put everything in perspective for me. Like, you know what? If you don't do it now, you're going to be the classic, 80-year-old on your deathbed regret. And
regret.
that's what I didn't want. And so I just tell everybody, if you get that opportunity, just jump.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. By the way, that's my measurement of like how I decide like what I should or shouldn't do is when I'm 80 years old and I'm on my deathbed, like what am I going to think about this situation?
Yeah.
I do that a lot with like because we have me and Jenna together have 6 kids, so
Wow.
we gotta I'm also like a workaholic and so like gotta analyze like am I spending the proper amount of time in business? Am I spending the proper amount of time with the kids? Am I gonna regret this at a certain age? So like I think it's very important to like look at it through that lens and like I think most of your decisions will be appropriate
Yeah.
if you look at them in that way.
Yep. And that's a great way to do it. And, it's also something that if you put it, any decision that you make in business, right? How am I going to look at this in the future, right? Will I regret not doing this? Will I, be upset at myself for trying? Probably not.
Yeah.
Um, and like I tell everybody, just bet on yourself.
Mhm.
There's no one else who's going to want you to succeed more than you.
Mhm.
As long as you got that drive.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think like you said, like you don't regret like a failure necessarily. Like
Yeah.
if like elite automation doesn't make it, I'll be pretty upset. I have no clue what I'm gonna do, but I'm sure there's somebody that'll hire me. I mean,
Yeah,
the skill sets
you'll
that
you'll
I've built in
figure
this
it out.
process.
You'll be all
Yeah,
right, and you know what? You'll have an awesome story to tell, a great
yeah,
experience, and probably, not that you are gonna fail, but the next group that hires you are gonna be like, oh man, you got all this experience. You might have
yeah,
people reaching out to you, from accounting or people from the sales team. How'd you get this
yeah,
project? So it's just the overall learning experience, right? Is just gonna put
yeah,
you above anybody else who hasn't done it.
absolutely. What are your thoughts on the amount of work experience prior to starting a company?
Um, yeah, it just depends on the individual, right? If I was coming out of Ferris back in 2008 and there was a company like Joiner, I could have handled it, right? I would have said, okay, I'm a weld engineer, got some programming experience. I'm driven, hardworking, willing to, work on the road, work 300 days a year, not at
Mhm.
home. Um, I could have handled it, whereas other individuals, need that experience. So what I always tell people generally nowadays, especially with the younger kids, I tell them go get a couple years of experience, build some clients, get some, see some new things that you haven't seen,
Mhm.
and then look at it. Again, right now, generally the people that I'm using have at least 10 years of experience.
Right.
Um, so get that experience first, build a strong base. And I tell everybody, especially the younger kids, get into contracting, build an amazing base. Which would you
Mhm.
rather have? Somebody who's worked at one company, worked on one robot their entire career, after 5 years, say, hey, I want to jump into something new? Or would you hire the individual like myself who had worked at, after 5 years on 5 different types of robots, seen all these different
Mhm.
projects, been traveled all over the world, seen all different types of applications? Whose resume are you going to pick, right?
Right.
So then at that point, you can turn around and say, well, I think I can start my own business at this point.
Yep.
So that's the advice I always give people.
Mhm.
I just think it's, build a strong base. If you can do it consulting, great. If not, do it at your 9 to 5 and then volunteer somewhere, find a mentor, reach out, go to different automation events, things like that. And then really, you build that strong foundation so where you're not just a one trick pony, right? You have a strong base and a strong network.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the biggest, I'll say, like, mistakes or downfalls that I made. Was I was very much like engineer, project manager type of individual, and doing project based work. The interface with the customer was kind of very, very little, and
Yeah.
I wish I'd have put a lot more energy into like saving, Billy Joe's contact information, and how I can get a hold of him into the future,
Yeah.
and just kind of keeping up with where they're at in their career. And
That's another great point. So back in the day, there was only Facebook, right? So there wasn't LinkedIn. So I would add a bunch of people that I worked with. Well, then over the years, I hadn't talked to them in a while, and I did my, annual cleansing of people that I hadn't talked to in forever. And a lot of those contacts I lost, and now I can't find them. I can't remember them. Who did I work with, on this project in Kansas City? Who was I working with down in Kentucky? I can't remember. So that is another, regret. And that's why I mentioned earlier, networking.
Yep.
Now places like LinkedIn, it's great, super business professional, can reach out to people that you haven't met, which is nice.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely that's another, I guess, a little regret that I had was, getting rid of, cleansing the Facebook page a little bit to lose some of the contacts that later when you go, oh shoot, if I would have had them still, we were good buds, just hadn't talked in 10 years.
Yeah.
Would have been a good phone call to make.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually like kind of like going into that deeper. Like, there's a lot of people that like, so like I have the marketing team tasked to like find me everybody, not, I don't know how you say everybody, but individuals is like Facebooks and Instagrams and these different social media profiles, so that way we can stay connected on like a deeper level, right? It's not just LinkedIn. If anything ever happens to LinkedIn, like we've personally experienced too, where like LinkedIn accounts getting deleted. What happens then? Like, you essentially could lose all those contacts that you have there. And then just secondly, like, even the individuals who are on LinkedIn, they generally have like a social media platform that's their preferred platform outside of, right, is Facebook or Instagram or whatever, right? But with that being said, it's like it's another place to connect with individuals. It's another place to remember individuals. Like, I don't use social media very much at all, but I do.
Me neither. But I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Like, if I scroll social media, I do probably scroll LinkedIn and Facebook almost equally. Oh, maybe. I mean, I don't scroll very much at all, but it's like it. I notice I more frequently click on Facebook, and I notice like within 2 scrolls, I'm like, I really don't want to see a lot of things that are on Facebook, so I go.
Yeah. Well,
And
and I guess that's another good point, because I shouldn't say I don't have Facebook on my phone, but I do have it for my business. But when I do post, I also look to post in groups, right? And what's cool is using them is there's different groups there, and people that follow that and that aren't on LinkedIn. So, if I'm sending out information on industrial robots, I might post it on LinkedIn, but then I'll also go to my Facebook groups that I'm in, where there maybe even, 20, 30, 50,000 people, post that same information there as well, and try to gain new followers that way.
yeah, that's a really good way of going about it. Yeah, I think like like back before, probably before both of our times, but it was like really like Reddit was such a big deal, like before YouTube and stuff like that. I mean, it still is kind of a big deal, but like that was all you had. And like I think that like people kind of like ignore some of these like older tactics. Like there's definitely segregation. There's people like that are still like 100% using Reddit, and then there's like other people that are like, what's Reddit? You know what I mean? So like I think like doing the merge of all things, like that's one of my big, like, it's a marketing strategy, and just like I'll say marketing because that's really the category it falls under, but I don't really look at it as marketing. But it's just being in as many places as you can, right? Not only just to like post there, but to like be there and like consume, see what other people are talking about. I think that's super important.
And it's again, it just goes back to the networking portion, right? I mean, it's just what can you share with new people, find out, new stuff. It's an awesome opportunity. That is the one good side about social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Keegan, what are some other valuable points that you can add to the community?
I'd say just be open-minded to learn. That's one thing that's super helpful for me. And again, until I really went and did a lot of innovation stuff in Germany, I guess I was limiting myself. And it's something that I think no matter what field you're in, no matter what industry, as long as you're willing to learn new things and grow, I think your career will also grow. It's it's something that you see a lot of people just, hey, I'm just going to do my job, do my 9 to 5, and then I'm done, I'm out. But you see the people that are successful in that company, and the ones that are successful, they've got other things going on. They're interested in drones on the side. They're messing with toy robots with their kids, right? These people are reading books on sales or reading books on automation, right? And they're expanding their knowledge. So definitely look to always learn, and however that is for you, figure that out. But it'll only help your career.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing I'm not sure exactly what the data is on it, but it's like an extra hour every evening makes you an expert. An extra hour studying your career field makes you an expert in like 2 years or something like
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna say a couple years probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just
And
putting in
and
that
that doesn't
extra hour.
surprise me, right? And now, shoot, it's so easy. Like we talked about, when I'm doing yard work, man, it's either SoundCloud or I'm learning something. And
Yeah,
sometimes it goes back and forth, and sometimes I get a good book. I'm reading that book, and I'm done with it in 3 days.
yeah.
So whether you're listening in your car, listen
Mhm.
to podcasts or anything else, it's just learn more in your industry. That's definitely a huge thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been like a big one too. Like learn more in your industry as well. Like I always worked a lot of hours. I feel like I gained a lot of knowledge and experience and became to like the expert level that I am from just putting in so many hours of work, and then
Yep.
like spending some time outside of work learning more things about like the robot program or whatever the thing is I was kind of spending my time doing.
Yep.
um but it really boils down to like spending that extra energy
Yeah.
on tasks outside of your normal work hours.
Yeah, and it's really, again, it's only going to help you. You're learning things that may not relate right now, but could relate in 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
Like we even talked about, right? Just even jumping into your own business and then going into this new business venture in real estate. You're going to learn so much from that last experience, and you may have thought, hey, this may not correlate to this industry, but find out it does.
Yeah.
That's critical, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Keegan, where can people find you at?
Uh, LinkedIn, pretty active on that. If not there, you can check out our YouTube channels for finding automation or engineers in automation and joiner services. So appreciate you having me on, and yeah, it was great talking today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here.
All right, take care.